The monitor screamed, a single piercing note: life had fled, or had it. Doctors moved with urgency, but a profound stillness filled the room. In the quiet aftermath, a question lingers: what if death is not truly the end? Imagine that scene. Now, picture ancient Judea. Dusty roads, stone houses, a different understanding of life and death. Or deep space, vast, cold, indifferent. Across these landscapes, humanity has always wrestled with the ultimate unknown, the cessation of being. Is death a closed door, or a veil separating one reality from another? This question is as old as we are. Billions have lived and died, each a universe of experiences extinguished, or so it seems. Yet stories persist. Tales of return, whispers of journeys to the brink and back. Are these mere fables, or do they point to something more profound? Our journey today is one of discovery. We'll travel from modern hospitals to the sun-baked hills of ancient lands. We'll look at a very old story, about a man named Lazarus, a man who died and then lived again. A story that challenges our deepest assumptions about life, death, and what might lie just beyond our sight. The Lazarus story is not just ancient history, it's a challenge, a question posed directly to us. What if the end is not the end? What if something waits beyond that flat line? Today we explore the boundaries of life and death. We seek to understand what it means to cross that threshold, and we ask, what might it mean to return? The story of Lazarus invites us to look closer, to listen for the whisper beyond silence. Over 100 billion people have lived and died throughout human history, each one a story, a final breath, a relentless tide of mortality. This shapes our civilizations, our philosophies, our deepest fears and hopes. Amidst this vast ocean of departures, some stories stand out. One such story is that of Lazarus of Bethany, recorded in the Gospel of John, chapter 11. The story begins, simply, Lazarus falls ill. His sisters send for Jesus, believing he can heal. It's a challenge, a question that echoes across the millennia. What does it mean to die, and what does it mean to return? It asks us to reconsider what we know about life and death. This story stands as a beacon of hope and a puzzle. The Lazarus story is a question waiting for an answer. The journey began towards a grieving village, a sealed tomb, and a moment that would defy all understanding. The stage was set for something extraordinary. Sometimes the greatest miracles begin with waiting. In Bethany, the boundary between life and death was about to be crossed. Finally, Jesus announced, "Let us go to Judea again."
Our friend Lazarus sleeps, but I go that I may wake him up.
They believed Jesus could heal him, if only he came. But Jesus did not come immediately.
Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick.
In ancient times, death was a shadowy realm. Life was precious because its end was so complete, so irreversible. When Lazarus died, he had crossed a threshold. He was buried according to Jewish custom. Today, doctors define death with clinical precision. But when the brain is gone, life, as we define it, is over. Near-death experiences, patients revived with stories of light, of peace. The ancient world saw death as a departure of spirit. Today we see it as a biological shutdown. But the core mystery remains. What truly happens when life ceases? Is it an absolute end, or a transition we don't yet comprehend? The story of Lazarus invites us to look again at what we think we know, and to wonder, is death as final as it seems? The end is never quite the end. The tension was building toward an unimaginable climax. The crowd followed, breathless. The moment of truth was near. In Bethany, hope and grief collided, and the world was about to witness the impossible. The story was reaching its turning point.
Lord, come and see.
Where have you laid him?
Why did he weep, knowing he would raise Lazarus? Perhaps for their pain, for the sting of death, for the brokenness of the world. His tears were of profound empathy, and perhaps righteous anger against death itself.
Eda crucino Jesus, Jesus wept.
The grief was raw, unfiltered. Friends and mourners wept with them. Jesus saw their weeping. He was deeply moved, troubled.
Lord, if you had been here.
A monumental claim, challenging, comforting, demanding faith beyond the conventional. Mary was called. She came, fell at Jesus' feet, weeping.
Ego eimi anastasis kai isoi. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live.
Martha affirmed her belief in a future resurrection, but Jesus offered something more immediate.
Your brother will rise again.
Her words were both faith and pain. Jesus spoke to her of resurrection.
Curie eis ode o adelphos mu uk anethethnike. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died.
When Jesus reached Bethany, Lazarus had been buried 4 days. Martha went out to meet him, her heart heavy with sorrow. and perhaps a touch of reproach. The onlookers were overcome, some with awe, others with fear or confusion. What had they witnessed? The impossible had become possible. Life reclaimed from the grasp of death. The world, for those present, had changed forever. The story of Lazarus was now legend. The boundary between life and death had been crossed, and nothing would ever be the same. The miracle echoed through history, and still echoes today.
Loose him and let him go.
Silence. Then a stirring from within the darkness. A shape moved, emerging into the light. It was Lazarus, hands and feet bound, face wrapped with a cloth.
Lazar, duro exo. Lazarus, come out.
His prayer was for the witnesses, for their faith. The air was thick with anticipation. Then, Jesus cried out with a loud voice,
Father, I thank you that you have heard me. But because of the people standing by, I said this, that they may believe you sent me.
The stone was rolled away, exposing the darkness. Jesus lifted his eyes and prayed.
Did I not say that if you believe you will see the glory of God?
Decomposition was advanced, the reality was grim.
Lord, by this time there is a stench, for he has been dead 4 days.
Take away the stone?
They came to the tomb, a cave sealed with a stone. The Lazarus story pushes us to ask bigger questions, not for simple proof, but for a wider understanding of life's mystery. Science and story meet at the edge of what we know. The boundary is not as clear as we once thought, and the search for answers continues.
Could a signal reactivate this information? Highly speculative, beyond current science. Quantum physics explores bizarre realities. Consciousness remains a puzzle.
Could information theory offer a clue? DNA as a complex information system?
Some genes in animal cells can become active hours, even days, after death. Not resurrection, but activity where we assumed only stillness.
Individual cells can survive for a time after clinical death. DNA is remarkably resilient.
Near-death experiences fascinate us. Tunnels of light, peace, out-of-body sensations. Some say these are hallucinations. Others wonder if consciousness might persist briefly, even when the body shows no outward signs of life.
From a biological standpoint, it seems impossible. Yet science keeps pushing boundaries, exploring the definition of life and death.
Clinically, after 4 days, decomposition is well underway. Brain function would be long gone irreversibly.
What does modern science make of such a story? A man, dead for 4 days, returning to life? What if the veil is thinner than we think? What if the call, "Come forth," echoes still? The story endures because it speaks to our deepest hopes. It invites us to imagine more, to believe in transformation, and to wonder what it truly means to rise again. The Lazarus story is both history and hope.
It challenges us to look beyond the material, to ponder life, consciousness, and spirit.
It asks us to consider that the universe might be more mysterious, more hopeful than we imagine.
It offers a glimmer, a possibility that defies our everyday experience.
The Lazarus story taps into this universal longing.
These beliefs show a common human yearning, a hope for continuity, justice, reunion.
Resurrection is not unique to Christianity. Ancient Egyptians hoped for an afterlife. Zoroastrianism and Islam speak of resurrection and renewal.
Theology finds richness in both the historical and the metaphorical. The story's power endures.
Can both be true? A literal event with deep symbolic layers?
Others see symbolic meaning. Lazarus as humanity called forth into new life, spiritual awakening.
The details in John's Gospel are vivid: the stench, the grave clothes, the astonishment.
For many, yes, a demonstration of divine power, a foreshadowing of Jesus' own resurrection, a promise of future life.
The raising of Lazarus, was it a literal physical event? Imagine Lazarus, unbound, breathing, alive, the shock, the fear, then overwhelming joy. His sisters embrace him, tears of grief replaced by wonder. What were those first moments like? The confusion, the realization? He had returned from the land of the dead. This reunion is the emotional heart of the story, a testament to love, family, and the breaking of death's bonds. For those who grieve today, this story offers comfort, not as a promise of identical miracles, but as a symbol of hope. Love is stronger than death. Even in our darkest hours, there can be belief in something more, a spiritual continuity, a future reunion. The Lazarus story speaks to the resilience of the human spirit. Resurrection can mean more than returning from the grave. Think of moments we feel dead inside, trapped by despair, addiction, failure. The story becomes a metaphor for personal revival. overcoming immense challenges, rising from the tombs of our own making. A montage, the addict finding sobriety, the broken heart healing, the oppressed finding freedom, the hopeless finding purpose. These are all forms of resurrection, new beginnings. The ultimate message? Life is tenacious, precious, and death takes many forms: physical, spiritual, emotional. The call to come forth is always present, a call to awaken, to live more fully, to believe in transformation. Resurrection isn't just about returning from the grave, it's about how we choose to live, here and now, with courage, hope, and love. The Lazarus story echoes through time. It invites us to rise again and again, to believe in the possibility of change, and to answer the call, come forth.